everybody to Lessons with Real Estate Legends, and I'm super stoked today. This is going to be my most exciting and fun chat that I've had in a long time, and I've had the distinct pleasure of bringing to you someone that is a very good friend of mine, my greatest business mentor, and I would say arguably one of the brightest minds we see in real estate today. And I get to say that because I get to work with this guy, and I get to follow and watch him as he's crafting and navigating the way in which he's leading a 52,000 plus agent network right now here at Home Services. So, or a Home Services franchise, excuse me. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Chris Stuart to the program today. Chris, say hello.
Hey, thanks, Troy. Hello. Good to be with you, buddy. It's good to, be in a different setting. Usually we're just casually on the phone talking as we do 4 or 5 times every day. So it's good to see you in person, buddy.
It is, man. It is, Chris. Thank you. And thanks for taking a few minutes today too. Obviously, I'd like to begin. This is a strange time. And typically, you don't put timestamps on these because a lot of the information that we're going to be giving is going to go for years to come. But I do want to say and basically begin by stating the obvious. We're in a really interesting time right now with the pandemic that's sweeping across the globe. And just want to be very empathetic to those that are suffering during these times and those that are just kind of looking for new direction during those times as well. But, without further ado, I'd love to dive into this a little bit. And Chris, I know your schedule's super tight with everything you've got going on. But I do want to ask you a handful of questions, and I briefed you a little bit on kind of what this program is supposed to be. It's literally, I just want to find an avenue to give back and be completely brand agnostic. What can we do for brokers, for agents, for the network, for the industry? How do we differentiate ourselves as an industry and continually become better? And Chris, I know this is a page right out of your playbook, so I figured this would be a great time to dive into this. But Chris, if you don't mind, I'd love to start with just a little bit of your background. Would you mind sharing with everyone that's here today just your background and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually started my career in technology, and it was really interesting times, the mid-90s, and I was fresh out of college and really took a job kind of on a flyer. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and took a job just really because it meant that I got to live and work in New York City. And so, and it was with a technology company, a systems integration company. So I started my career there, transferred with that organization out to Silicon Valley. And then a short time after, I went to work at Oracle Corporation as a global account executive. And, those years, the beginning of my career, and much like anyone listening or watching this right now would agree, is, wherever you start your career, it has a lasting impact on everything you do after that, in the sense that it creates some, foundational learnings and experiences that you take with you as sort of a lens on the way that you look at every professional, job or opportunity that you have after that. It creates a foundation. And so for me, that foundation was in technology, and it was working with some of the largest companies in the world during a time in the mid-90s and all the way through the early part of the 2000s, where businesses in all industries of all sizes were challenged and responding to technology and the role that the internet would play, and the internet computing capabilities would play in the transformation of their businesses. And so that's been a very, healthy and useful foundation for me, because as I transitioned into real estate, which I first did in mortgage banking, and then shortly thereafter in real estate brokerage, I connected up with arguably the best operator and leader in the real estate market, Gino Blafari, who has a story, pretty much an unprecedented career in real estate. And I helped him build along the way. He had started from scratch in 2002, and I joined him a few years later. And we built together with the other incredible leaders of that organization what became the 7th largest real estate brokerage in the United States. It was bought by Home Services of America, the entity that owns the real estate division within Berkshire Hathaway. And Gino and I transitioned at that point over into the franchise company of Home Services. And that was 2015. And from 2015 to now, I've held a variety of roles from franchise development all the way into operations, and ultimately took the CEO role in 2019. And what I would say is, looking back, every single experience that I've had professionally has been the perfect blend of experience and knowledge to lead me to where I am now, most notably my initial career journey through enterprise technology. And so it's been an interesting ride, certainly one that I would have never been able to, in my wildest imagination, conceive all of the steps along the way to where I am now as the CEO of this organization. But it's been fun, it's been interesting, there's been a whole lot of stories in the middle. So I'm thankful for all of that.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. And for sure, I mean, the sea's a bit more turbulent lately as well, obviously, with everything that we're doing, and we'll get into that here in a second. Chris, I want to go a little bit bigger picture on this now too. Thanks for laying out kind of the background and what got you to here, and literally the fabric that's woven to put you to where you are today. But I also know that you're a student of mindset, and mindset's extremely important to you, your daily routines, the accelerated productivity that you get out of your day, and I know a lot of that's probably been crafted from Gino and many of the other business mentors you've had. But would you mind sharing what does your daily routine look like as a CEO of one of the largest real estate networks in the world, Chris?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. All aspects of change and uncomfort create the opportunity for reflection and introspection and change. And to me, change has always been a good thing. I've never viewed change as something that is to be resisted or feared, in the sense that the other side of change for me has always resulted in improvement. And so, when we first got into this pandemic, the one thing that I was really motivated by was this idea that I never wanted to look back after this crisis and be left with even one moment of doubt that I didn't do everything that I could possibly do to encourage and inspire and motivate and direct and counsel and guide the people around me to be prepared for what was happening, to right-size their business in the case of our broker owners, to prepare as agents to reduce expenses and maybe pivot as to how they were going about their business building activities. I just wanted to make sure that every single thing that we did during this downturn or this pivot in our industry, that I was at the service of others. And so to that point, I really looked at the fact that I wouldn't be traveling myself, which is what I typically did. In a typical week pre-COVID, I'd be out on the road, 2 to 4 days a week, working with our companies, working with prospective companies, presenting to brokers or industry, leaders or agents or whatever the audience might be. And that was pretty much, 40 to 45 weeks out of every single year. The rest of the time down in one of our offices, working with our staff and working on initiatives. So recognizing that cadence of activity and my inability to be personally in the field and connecting with our great people, I said, okay, if my mission is to pour into others and be in a service mentality, and I can't be physically there, then what can I do? What can I control? And then it became all about my messaging and my communication and the outreach and leveraging tools like social media, like video, like interactive sessions and panels. And I immediately worked with our team to enable all of that capability so that we didn't miss a beat. And the result has been a series of collaborative town hall style meetings that we've done with our brokers, with our leadership, with our marketing directors, our relocation directors, our agents. And the frequency and pace of this communication has just been incredible. I mean, it's very likely that in a day you might see 2 or 3 different methods of communicating, whether it's a live webcast on our social media channels or a pre-recorded video from me or one of our team members, or a live web meeting where we bring, whole companies together or whole portions of our network together to share best practices and current activity. And so to sustain that, then what I looked at is, okay, I'm grounded. I'm virtually turning my home office into a content media studio. What do I need to do to make sure that I'm prepared with the content, with the scheduling, with the mindset, with the energy to make all of this happen and do my part? And so, in terms of the schedule, I'm pretty much up every day between 5 and 6, which wasn't that unusual pre-COVID. But basically, I go through a series of, calls and accountability calls and, a regular cadence in the morning, participating in meetings, writing video, producing video, being on in front of the camera. And then I try right around midday to take a break and get out and do something, physical. I've been running a lot, running followed by stretching and some type of downtime, and then pretty much pick back up for a couple of hours in the late afternoon between 3 and 5, break to have dinner with the family. And then usually my evenings are spent just catching up on email and, trying to stay connected to our network audience via social media, responding to, feedback and comments and emails and things like that we get. I'm just trying to, provide a sense of calm and certainty and provide some vision and inspire and motivate our networks with the right level of content and messaging and direction. And I know to be able to do that, I've got to be very, very structured with my time and also have the physical stamina, just to keep going. And that's why that break in the middle of the day to get out and do something physical has been real rewarding. And from all of it, I've gotten my, I'm not a runner. Typically I don't run, but I've gotten my, endurance up where I can get out there for, 4.5, 5 miles and run, 2/3 of that. So I run a good 3.5, 4 miles every day and walk the rest of it, which has been, a good, healthy byproduct of all this.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Chris. And as someone that works with you, I know that level of discipline. I mean, obviously it resonates throughout our organization, and you're trying to help other organizations do the same thing, even outside of our network. And the one thing I'll touch on, Chris, you were talking about all the different mediums that are being used right now for communication. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, Chris, but it's amazing how many people you're touching each week internally at HSF, all the way to home services, all the way to our network of affiliates, to our home stores, et cetera. It's incredible. You're doing live casts, you're doing multiple town halls, actually doing multiple live casts a week. You're putting out multiple recorded videos that you typically do the night before. As you share, you'll write the content, cut it, and then it goes out with some quick edits the next day. So it's incredible the amount of communication that's resonating through the network. And the one thing that I'll say I've noticed at HSF, Chris, is this is really good for now. And it's great for now. And I'm sure we'll use a level of this from this point forward moving on. But it's that human interaction, that human touch, I think we're all missing a little bit at the same time. We get a level of it through video, but there's a lot of magic when you go to those offices too and spend some time with them and have deep conversations at the same time, right? So it's, I would say with your mission, it appears you're able to do everything that you can do to accomplish exactly what you said, to make sure you're serving at each step of the way through this pandemic, which is really neat to see, Chris. It's fun to see. It's great to see. I send it out to people outside of our network so they can experience what's going on inside the network too. And I think it's been extremely powerful. As a matter of fact, I know it has. I get some amazing emails back from folks that are just amazed at what we're putting out there. So I appreciate that. And thank you for that. And thank you for sharing. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
Chris, as the CEO or as the CEO of HSF, or if you were the CEO of any brokerage, what would be the single most important thing that a broker owner should do in their organization to be successful? Not necessarily during COVID time, you can touch on that as well, but just in general, as a broker owner, how do they scale and do something similar to what you and Gino are able to do with Intero?
Well, I think that as an industry, we really suffer from in many regards, and I'm speaking generically, so I don't want anyone watching this to feel insulted or that I'm attacking personally, because I'm a part of the industry. So everything that I describe about our industry, I'm looking at myself too. Is I feel like a lot of times, Troy, we're business owners, and business owners need to have a plan. And the fundamental element of the plan is, what problem are you solving in the marketplace? I mean, that's the fundamental, prerequisite of any business. What are you solving? What challenge are you solving? And, to put it into a medical metaphor, are you a vitamin or are you a painkiller? And what is it that you're really, really doing? And if the response is as simple as, oh, we're just selling real estate, well, then you're a painkiller, and the essence of your value proposition is probably, I'm just going to charge you, Mr. or Mrs. Agent, less money. I'm just going to compete on price. And so I think the most fundamental response to the question that I could give is, a CEO must understand, what is the problem that you're solving? What are you trying to impact in the marketplace? And recognize that as a broker, you've got multiple audience or constituents or clients, if you will. You've got agents. Sometimes your agents are teams, team members, top producing agents, luxury agents. So you've got some segmentation in your audience there with agents. You've also got consumers. You've also got partners, core service partners like mortgage and settlement and insurance. And so I think one of the fundamental misses with a lot of CEOs is there's a miss in terms of a clear understanding of, what is my mission and purpose? What am I solving in the marketplace? And then what can I uniquely do as the CEO to put my unique signature on that service? And that involves leading from the front, being visible, articulating the vision, living the vision, helping bring people along with that vision. Because I'll tell you right now, the biggest vacuum, the thing that's most missing in our industry is leadership. We're an industry that is void of enough leadership, thought leadership, experience. And that's why we see ourselves so transactionally rooted. We're rooted in chasing deals because we haven't stepped back to see the forest for the trees. And I think that that's primarily a function or an extension of the fact that we don't really know what problem we're solving. And in the absence of understanding what problem you're solving, you're typically competing on price, which means that you're at the mercy of the market. You're at the mercy of your competitors, because if you compete on price, it's the single easiest element of your business plan to duplicate. And so that's what I would say in response to that question, Troy.
Yeah, thank you. And I'd like to take this a step further as well, Chris. I'd love to talk about one of the recent terms that you've coined, the loyalty void, because it really plays off of exactly what you said and how you compete and where you find those golden nuggets. Do you care to talk a little bit about the loyalty void that you came out with this year?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I would just say, again, it speaks to, in my opinion, the lack of strategic thinking in our industry. Because if you looked at most other consumer-facing industries, hotels, airlines, department stores, restaurants, all of these industries and the best companies in these industries, they talk and measure relentlessly. They talk and discuss and frame with a relentless determination their customer loyalty. They want to know, of the people that have transacted business with us in the past, how do we keep them retransacting with us so that they don't go to our competitors? How do we measure that? How do we understand it? How do we separate our marketing and sales efforts and budgets and time between retaining our existing customers versus attracting new customers? And in our industry, there's virtually no discussion about it. You don't hear about it at any of the seminars or the forums or all the big self-professed think tanks and organizations that, are supposed to be giving us all of our strategic directions in industry. No one's talking about customer loyalty. Most people don't even understand the term if you talk to them about it. So you've got to provide all this background to even have a discussion versus going to the executives, the sales and marketing executives at Marriott or Nordstrom's department store or Nike or Delta Airlines. If you were to say the words customer loyalty with any of their executives, there wouldn't be an ounce of doubt or confusion. They'd know exactly what you're talking about, how they measure it, how they're focused on it. In our industry, we're not. And the annual study of buyers and sellers that NAR does every year, it measures customer loyalty. It's the question that asks, how many of our buyers and sellers would use their agent again for their next transaction? And every single year, overwhelmingly, 80 to 90% of buyers and sellers say, I would absolutely use my realtor again. She was great. He was awesome, whatever it might be. But then we also ask, well, for those of you that closed in the last 12 months, how many of you actually used your realtor from the previous transaction? And only 12% say that they do. So the gap between the 90% of people that desire or intend to retransact with their agent again and the 12% that actually do, that is the gap. That is the loss of loyalty in our industry. And I call it the loyalty value void. It's a void because it exists. There's a huge gap, and it measures a customer's loyalty, their intention to be loyal, and the actual percentage of those that are. And the word value represents the fact that we as an industry struggle with providing relational, long-term strategic value versus transactional facilitation. And that, in my opinion, is one huge reason that the loyalty value void exists. It's the very nature of our pursuit of transactions and deals versus more relational strategic relationships with our clients as to why that exists. So we intend to fill it. I mean, that is our maniacal focus, is helping our agents understand, recognize, accept that it's there, and then arm them with the approaches and the tools and the frameworks and the ideology that they need to adopt to close it.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for sharing that. It's obviously, it resonates deep inside of HSF and everything that you're trying to accomplish and drive. And you're right, we have been maniacal at that, and it's already taking shape very quickly on. And this was just announced, just a convention this year when you came out. And I know we've always driven towards that, but it was cool to actually have a term put behind it, and now we've got a focus as well. So thank you for that. Hey, Chris, I know we're running long here, and I know how busy you are. I'd love to ask you one more question. Do you have a couple more minutes?
Okay, yeah, I've got to jump here in a few minutes.
I know you do. So let's go back to the pandemic just briefly, because it'll be interesting to see what actually happens at the end of this. We do see light at the end of the tunnel. And my question to you is, what do you see happening really on the other side of COVID once we break through that tunnel? Do you see, is there going to be more AI? Is there going to be greater adaptation of technology? Do you see people getting more social than ever before just because they've been pinned up for so long? And in 2 or 3 minutes, Chris, what do you think is going to take place?
Yeah, I definitely think some of these technologies will survive, and for good reason. I think that it's just more efficient, more effective. I think real estate clients are going to recognize that this is a meaningful way of transacting certain portions of the real estate process. Not necessarily viewing property, but perhaps particularly relocating families, particularly the spouses or the family members of relocating families who might be trailing the primary person that's relocating. And I also think, as a means of staying connected to customers, I'd love to see some of what we're establishing in terms of the virtualization of the process, the communication and transactional process survive this crisis, because I think it adds an added layer of personality and humanity to some of the real estate process that may have otherwise been done just with a text or just with an email. Mm-hmm. But I do believe that the only thing that's going to resuscitate the real estate market back to its previous levels is the humanity. Is people want to be, physically engaged. They want to be together. They want to they want to understand the nuance of what they're buying, and the nuance of the mortgage and the taxes and the insurance, and a lot of those particularly for, like, as an example, first time buyers, or maybe someone buying an investment property, or perhaps someone buying a second home or vacation rental. They want to be there. They want to smell the community. They want to understand what's going on. And so I think from that perspective, the element of the human portion of this whole industry and the role that the agents play with that will be very much back front and center once we're past this current crisis.
Yeah, I think you coined the term vitamin H last year, wasn't it? Vitamin H for humanity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the industry is definitely going to need some vitamin H, some vitamin humanity when this is all over, for sure.
Yeah, man. Well, Chris, thank you so much. I know how busy you are. I know we've been trying to put this together forever, and in one of the craziest times that we've ever seen, we've ever experienced, our parents have ever experienced. You took, almost 30 minutes. So thank you so much, Chris. Look forward to watching you continue to change this industry, continue to change HSF and home services. And it's just a pleasure to always serve you, my friend. Thank you so much.
Yeah, likewise, Troy. Appreciate you, buddy. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.